You know, it feels good to take out revenge on so many of your enemies. Just on the inside. It's like, you feel satisfied. You feel like you've won the Nobel Peace Prize on the inside. Okay, I wouldn't say it's that deep, but still, you know what I mean. Hey there guys, my name is Blake, also known as The Nerd, and welcome to the final episode of Mickey Speedway USA. Crazy! An entire week of these videos. Or, you know, more. Hopefully just an entire week. It's nuts. But, last time, I was able to take out revenge, or seek out revenge, as Pete, and annihilated people in contests. We won 2 out of the 4 courses, which doesn't matter because I don't care in contest mode about it because it shows no trophies and it shows no mercy for that, which I like. So in this episode, now that I've done that, I'll probably unwind and go into practice mode. Believe it or not, practice mode is not exactly what you think. It looks like you might be able to go on a track or whatnot, but push the A button. You'll see you're in a nice different area. Also, I didn't change characters. Oops. I guess Pete still wants his revenge. Not really. Okay, I actually wanted to pick one of the unlockable characters. So, we have... I almost said Dewey. Louie. Gotta remember he's blue, so Louie, Bluey. His speed isn't that great, but his acceleration is great and handling is pretty good. He's light though. And Dewey is the complete opposite. Speed's good, handling is great, acceleration is also pretty good, and his weight is still light. So the only difference is they're pretty light. I'm gonna go ahead and pick Dewey for this one, for the practice course. I meant to do that earlier, but I forgot. I was so busy talking about this contest mode that I forgot all about it. But let's head back now into the practice course. And you'll see it's pretty big. It is really huge. Also, kind of find it weird that Dewey is raising the start line while Dewey is also racing. Anyone else find that weird? Because I honestly find that super weird. But so you saw right there, there's this little house thing you can go inside at any time. Basically, it's kind of a nice way to, in case you need like drifts and whatnot. Think of it as like the training mode in Smash Ultimate. So do whatever the heck you want. It's all up to you. Now, actually, I don't want to go. Well, actually, you know what? I might as well. There's no point in going in here. Might as well head over to the beach because there's something important. Or the bay. I'm sorry, but there is something important I want to talk about in terms of the other side. There's actually 3 areas. One of them is just the start line. This is the beach. Not really much to it. There's a nice little ramp you could go up. There's seagulls you can chase. Essentially, sometimes there'll be seagulls you can chase. I really wish I would have done. Oh, there you go. There's seagulls you can chase. See? Seagulls you can chase. That's pretty much about it. Nothing really too exciting about this area. You can jump off this whenever you want. You can hit the nets. You can hit the sign. Actually, that's not a sign. That's a blue base. And you can practice. Well, not bumping into stuff. Really wish I had done that first, but instead I decided to practice in Frantic Finale first. Honestly, that's how I was able to kind of familiarize myself with the game, was I played Frantic Finale because I had the ability to unlock it. Tried to get in good places. I only ended up like, I think in 3rd on my practice run. And this was on professional, actually. It wasn't on amateur. If it was an amateur, I would have been like, wait a second, I'm not really that good on Hawaii on amateur, but this is professional, so of course this is not gonna be that great. Of course it is. You are the only racer here. Go absolutely nuts. I don't know why that timer's there. I guess in case you want to know how long you've been here for, but I've been on the beach plenty enough. Now let's head over to the farm area, which is right here. Has a nice little barn. Interesting that there's a beach area and then there's a farm area, all in one city. It's really interesting, I'm not gonna lie. But here in the ranch, same as you usually have slopes. You can actually go inside this little area here and do that. You have a jumping area, and you got these chickens. Now these chickens, believe it or not, actually have some importance. Because on some occasions, they might actually leave an egg. I I'm hoping I can get one of them to actually lay an egg, so that I can show what you can do with said eggs. So that might take ages, as far as I can go. I also have the heckle button. Should have had regular horns. I missed that, but I'll remember to do that before. Why aren't you laying eggs? Okay. These chickens can actually lay eggs, also. Oh, okay. Thought I heard something else for a second there, but these chickens, believe it or not, can lay eggs, and you can crush them. There's a trick to this. If you can crush 10 eggs, I believe the minimum is 10 eggs. Could be more, could be less. You'll hear a sound. Once you hear that specific sound in practice mode, you probably would want to have your audio on for that specific sound. But I guess once you have the set amount of eggs, you don't have to do that anymore. Kind of unfortunate. Really wish I would have shown at least it, but I guess not. Yeah, but just know that these chickens can lay eggs. You can crack them open whenever you want. And by having 10 of these, or according to some other sources, 20 platinum trophies? Well, that's the case. We've gotten 12 out of the 20, although I imagine they meant like 16 or something like that. Not entirely sure that source is true or whatnot, but I'll say it instead aloud just in case. But you actually crack 10 eggs, as mentioned before, you will unlock an exclusive course in Time Trial. Speaking of, I don't think we need to be here anymore, so let's go ahead and exit out and actually do Time Trial, but not with Dewey, but rather his brother, or one of his brothers, aka the only brother here, because the other one is locked behind a Game Boy Color, Louie. And let's head into the final option in this game, Time Trial. So Time Trial is basically the same. You can fit, say, a Staff Ghost. Wow, I have nothing here. Really? I thought I did. Maybe some, wow, not even on courses. Those will occasionally, those will actually hold your records, but I also have Staff Ghosts on, so you might be able to face a Staff Ghost. Maybe once. And you can't get medal for it, but for doing exactly what I said, which is the 10 eggs, or the platinum trophies if you want to go that route, the final course you get is New Orleans. Now, get ready for the most thrilling, the most exciting, the most amazing, the most spectacular course in your life, because here it is. Oh, I already beat this? Or, who the heck is Sir? Well, Sir, I'm gonna have to ask you to step aside, because we're in the most thrilling course out there, and it's Steamboat. Yeah. Don't know why it's there, but this is New Orleans. It's just a steamboat minus the bumps and minus all the things happening. I'm not expecting to beat this Staff Ghost, and I'm not really determined to beat this Staff Ghost. I don't think you really get much out of it, although I actually might. Why not? Might as well see if it's possible. It kind of looks fun. So something I can manage to do. But I'm not gonna go too crazy if I don't actually beat it. It's not like I really care about that. It's just, I'd rather just enjoy this. Actually, wait, those little bump things are there. But once again, I don't understand. Okay, for rare standards, this is really bad. Like, the course just being the same as the battle arena. I have the theories as to why this is. One of them being that maybe Disney didn't give enough funds for them to do a full New Orleans track that they wanted to do, so they had to stick with the boat thing. But another theory I have is that maybe they didn't have enough time to create said course for New Orleans. Based on time or based on money? One of the two, you decide yourself. but it's really disappointing. It has to be, of all things, the gold area? Doesn't really seem all that creative at all, like, even for Rare standards. Rare, back in the Nintendo 64 days, was known for making really neat stuff, like Donkey Kong 64, Banjo-Kazooie, and to do this is kind of depressing, honestly. It really is. But that's also Time Trials in a nutshell. If you don't face the ghost, you can still go for your own records. I think I broke my own. I think I broke whoever Sir's record is. Seriously, who the heck is Sir? And why did I beat you? Well, in your place, whoever this is, I'm gonna put my name in there. BTN, like the nerd. And I've beaten, seriously, who the heck is Sir? I'm trying to think. That was years ago. I don't remember. Maybe I do remember, it's not really coming to me for some reason. I don't know. That's weird. But that is Time Trials in practice in a nutshell. You can change your track whenever you want, but we've already seen all the tracks. And me bumping this stuff is obviously the key factor to that. But, not done with this episode. I found some unused content, and I would like to share some of them with you guys. Whoa. It took me just now to realize this, but I never talked about the television. The television has 3 different screens. The first one is available to you right as soon as you start the game. The second one contains Mickey Mouse and Pluto, and that's what you get for completing the final trophy race, Frantic Finale, and Rescue Pluto. The third one is Ludwig von Drake, and this is a complicated one to get. But in order for you to get Ludwig von Drake on your television, you have to defeat all the staff ghosts and receive ghost medals for all the tracks. It's gonna be a challenge. So I think a good way to start at a topic like this is to talk about something that's within the game that you probably never knew was in the game. If you implement the following button commands, which I will put on screen right now, you will go into debug mode. What debug mode does, and it's not really a lot, but it's something, is it shows you where you are in terms of the X, Y, Z, and A coordinations on the bottom left. It isn't much, but if you're trying to get into technical schools where they provide gaming stuff, it's at least a nice way for you to see what it looks like on at least one game. Now let's actually move on to some of the unused content. Now I'm only going to point out ones that I found really interesting, since there actually is a ton of them, and most of them are just beta test tracks and early concepts and whatnot. And a good example of this is the tracks. Now a lot of them are just beta test tracks, but there are actually a couple of tracks from other Rare games. One of them being Mizar Racer from Jet Force Geminar. And alongside that track, there's also objects and the skybox background from the same game. Makes sense considering the fact that Jet Force Geminar and Mickey Studio USA use the same engine that Rare's used for most of their games. But Jet Force Geminar isn't the only game referenced within the codes of Mickey Studio USA. There's also Greenwood Village from Diddy Kong Racing, the very first racing game made by Rare. My best guess is that these tracks are in the game just to kind of give the creators of Mickey Studio USA an idea of what the courses should look like, or at least an idea of how it should be modeled. And if these are playable, they're most likely done through GameShark. And if you can play them through this, just be warned there isn't going to be any oomph tokens, or I don't think there's any lap counts. You'll just be racing around constantly. Oh yeah, Mr. Pence is also in the binary code. He was in Jet Force Gemini. How'd I almost forget him? Now what's interesting is nothing related to any other Rare games, but rather the Rumble Pack itself. Code suggests that ghost data could have been saved onto those Rumble Packs, much like Mario Kart 64, but never really put onto fruition because they have the 3 save system, you have to replace another one if you get another record, or something like that. But it was interesting to see that you could save more than 3 at one point, at least they were considering it. But the most interesting thing I found in terms of the tracks has nothing to do with actual tracks themselves, but rather early track previews. This would have suggested that the game was not going to be a US tour, but rather it was going to go around the world. In my head as a little kid, I always would have loved to see a sequel to this going worldwide, and the idea that they would consider this game to be worldwide is kind of interesting, I'm not gonna lie. Ever play the contest mode and wonder if there was any other mode or if they just stuck with Bloom Battle? They actually considered something called Capture the Flag, which players would collect Oomph tokens. Yes, they're actually called that. I don't know how many times I mentioned it, but they are called Oomph tokens, and bring those back to a machine in their area. Don't know how that would work exactly, but the interesting concept is there. Now let's move on to unused sounds and unused music. I'll talk about the music first, since some of these actually exist within the game's data files. For example, take a listen to this. What you're listening to is the early version of Malibu before the final product. There's also an unused ceremony song, though you'll get to hear it at a later point. And believe it or not, there's also a ton of unused sound effects and dialogue. In fact, a couple of them were exclusive to the E3 2000 build of Mickey Speedway USA. Take a listen. So we all know the end of time trials. Basically, once you complete the final lap, one of the nephew dogs will actually tell you got a new record if you were to reach that new record. Well, with the exception of Goofy, Donald, and Dewey, each character would also have stated they got a new record through unused dialogue.
Well, I got the course record!
Oh my! I broke the record! I broke the record!
The record's mine! The record is mine!
I got the course record! New course record! Yes!
Broken record!
We also have Ludwig sing Impervo Shell, which is a much better name than Shield Shell. I don't know why they stuck with that name.
Impervo Shell.
And we've also had dialogue indicating that each course would have had 5 laps instead of the usual 3. And lastly, I want to talk about unused animations. And there's actually a few of them spreading around YouTube right now. First up is the animation for trophies, which would have been shaped like Mickey Mouse holding flags, for bronze, silver, and gold, and I'm assuming platinum as well. These trophies look so nice, and I'm honestly disappointed this wasn't the final trophy used. And don't get me wrong, the trophies we use are unique and each one has different shapes and whatnot, but I'd rather take a simple common trophy like Mickey Mouse than those any day. Next up is this castle, which has the unused ceremony song I mentioned earlier. From what the music in the castle gathers, this would have been a very similar ceremony to that of Mario Kart 64. I'm kinda glad they did it because that'd be even more standout to a Mario Kart clone. And the castle you see is actually the castle in Disneyland Paris. Now I imagine they went unused because they probably knew the history of how much of a failure Disneyland Paris was for a little bit, but maybe they didn't want the people to remember that specific era of the 90s, so they removed it. Plus, I can imagine Michael Eisner also being in charge of Mickey Speedy USA for some reason, because you can't have Michael Eisner without that Disneyland Paris castle, right? If you're a 90s kid, you probably remember the Walt Disney Pictures logo, where it shows the castle and then the sparklers run over, and you might also remember the 3D one made by Pixar. Well, it turns out Pixar wasn't the only one that made a 3D version of the castle, and Rareware also made a 3D version of the castle as well, that would have probably been considered the intro. And while it would have been nice and would make a lot of sense given the time this game was made, ultimately they removed it in favor of keeping the intro short so that people could get into the game. But still, it would have been nice to have something like this in the long run. And the last one, and I apologize for any nightmare feel this might give you, is Mickey Mouse's head popping out directly from the intro screen of most Mickey Mouse cartoons, similar in fashion to Mario 64. This is a thing, and I can understand why they removed it. It's kind of creepy looking, and also it's a reminiscence and kind of a clone of Mario 64's intro. They've already taken, or at least were inspired, by a lot of aspects in Mario Kart, so having this as the intro or something like this probably would not have looked good on their resume in terms of the game. And while that is everything in terms of unused concept I found interesting to share with you guys, there's also some international versions I want to talk about compared to the North American one. First up, I want to talk about Europe because, for the most part, it stays the same. There's only a couple of minor changes, the first one being physical, which is the instruction manual looking a lot nicer with a black borderline and the artwork for the box, whereas in the North American version, we have Golden N64 page with only the title screen on it. Why did we go with that one and not make it any more creative? I don't understand. There's also a misspelled word in the European version of Mickey Speedway USA. Under the options mode, the word triple in the game used 2 P's, whereas triple is usually spelled with just 1. I can only assume that they didn't have enough time to check for spelling before they had to release it, so that's why it's like that. But it is an interesting and kind of hilarious typo in itself. And then there's the Japanese version, which, yes, you're seeing right now, I did actually get a physical copy of the Japanese version of the game. Come on, I love the game so much, how could I not buy a physical copy of some other language? Right off the bat, you'll notice that the box art is a little different. In the North American and European versions, Mickey, Goofy, and Peter are just racing. But in the Japanese versions, Mickey and Goofy are actually slamming through one of the postcards seen in-game, the Indianapolis postcard. On top of that, the instruction manual is much more colorful and much more interesting to look at than the North American version. Why is it that the North American version of Mickey Speed USA got the most boring looking instruction manual ever? I will never, ever understand. They also came with controls and some of the names of the items as well, which I don't remember we actually got a separate piece of paper, separate sheet, telling us exactly what those were. And then there's the cartridge, which doesn't have too much of a difference in terms of the image, but in the Japanese version it's just Mickey, whereas in North America you can see a little bit of Goofy's arm. In-game though, the Japanese version doesn't really have that many major differences, but rather a couple minor. First off, in the introduction, the Nintendo logo at the start of the game is actually white instead of red in North American and PAL versions of the game. The big tire sign in the Japanese version of Indianapolis does not say Speedway, it actually says Speedy in the game. Although, fun fact, on the back side of the physical box, it actually uses the North American version of the Indianapolis track, where it says Speedway instead of Speedy, which is weird because the Japanese name of the game never mentions Speedway once, but rather it says Speedy instead. There's also the start screen, which has a different font for press start. Instead of being bold and more related to the Mickey Mouse cartoons, it looks something like this. It's an interesting choice, and I don't know why they went with that, but I guess it kind of makes it unique. But that's really it in terms of changes, because believe it or not, the Japanese version of the game actually uses the English voice actors. Yeah, even I find that strange, but very interesting at the same time. But I imagine the people in Japan were really happy hearing the English versions of the Mickey Mouse characters instead of the Japanese ones they're really used to. Because much like how anime sounds a lot cleaner and a lot better in Japanese, Mickey Mouse cartoons just sound the best in English. That is everything I wanted to talk about in terms of unused content in the international versions, but of course, because I think I mostly forgot during the recording of the final episode, I want to give credit to where credit is due. Of course, special thanks to the Cutting Floor for their massive amount of information about unused content from Mickey Speedway USA. If you want to see the full thing, because there's way more than I covered, I'll provide you guys a link to that in the description below, where you can check out everything I didn't even talk about. Lucky Bone Squirrel, Furrow, and the Gamepedia for uploading the videos that were used, that wasn't just the gameplay itself, and a lot of people on GameSpot for additional information I actually needed. Oh man, that's always a lot of talking with these parts. Let's get back into the gameplay where I do more talking, shall we? Can I just tell you that I've been recording this consecutively in one night. I have not done that since Pokemon Snap. I have not done that since Pokemon Snap, let me tell you. So final results on the game. Looking back at it now, it's still fun. I still remember it fondly. Like it's still a great racing game I remember. Maybe it's a bit more challenging than I thought. I kind of had the mindset like, oh, this might not be so bad, but a little bit more difficult than I thought. But that, I mean, probably way more difficult than I thought, but it's rare. I have to step up their challenge at some point. Right? They haven't done it with Banjo-Kazooie, so Mickey Speedway USA probably fills that. But in terms of the project itself, not as strong as Project Mario DX, but I felt like I gave it my all, and this turned to be a phenomenally better of the two Mickey Speedway USA playthroughs. I can literally hear music, and I can actually play along with the music and be able to provide live narration that isn't post-narrated or has different music and whatnot. So, in the long run, even though I wouldn't say out of them it's like that great, well, it's good, but it's not the best. It's not in the middle. It's definitely not in the middle. It's far from. I've had a ton of fun. I definitely have. And it definitely makes up for what happened in 2011-2012 with this version, with its Let's Play of Mickey Speedway USA. And that's ultimately like, oh, with the 10th anniversary stuff, is to either kind of go based off of what made me where I am today, or try to improve on the stuff I've already done. And I'm glad I decided to come back here and improve of what I could have done. I've done everything I wanted to do over again, and maybe a little bit more, and I'm pretty content with that. Even at the playthrough itself, years back, I look at it and it's like, it was okay. Unless I could say, hey, at least it was better than the 2012 playthrough, the 2011-2012 playthrough, because, man, that was atrocious. It really was. But this one, I'm pretty satisfied with. I really am. Especially the fact that I've done a little bit of research. So, once again, special shout-outs to people for their, special shout-outs to people that I've mentioned, probably within the post-narration, because I probably forgot who was... Oh. But that is it for Mickey Speedway USA. That was a fun, short LP, and I'm glad I did it. Feels good to have something remade. With that being said, though, join back next time for maybe something magical and goofy, maybe? Who knows? So, if there's any episodes you missed, whether from the past, check them out in the playlist down in the description below. All that being said, though, thank you guys once again for tuning in. My name is Blake, also known as The Nerd, and I'll see you guys in my next Let's Play. And maybe then, the road to the finish line might be a bit longer. And hopefully not as frustrating. We'll see. But until then, do remember to take care.